kasama si Tony Israel. Is it a plane? Is it a drone? Is it a UFO? Kapulang Pilipinas, magandang gabi. Ngayon ay Agosto 11, Sabado. And welcome sa episode number 4 ng Alien Talk Year 2. Tulad ng dati, itong inyong lingkod, Anton Israel, siyempre kasama ang ating kapitapitagang partner, si Ka Ed Neri. At ngayon, we have a very special guest sa katauhan ni Mr. Neil Gould ng Exopolitics Institute ng Hong Kong. Aba, dapat po ninyo ito abangan, itong Inquiero proceedings natin dahil marami po tayong matututunan. Maging kaming dalawa ni Ed Neri ay mag-aaral in a way kung ano nga ba itong exopolitics at paano po ito nakaka-apekto sa ating pang-araw-araw na pagkilos. So wag po kayong bibitiw. Samantala, nais ko pong batiin. Lagi pong binabati ng palatuntunan ang Landicho family ng Batangas at Mindoro. Nandiyan siyempre si Kuya Lawrence Landicho, si Temporal Landicho, si Marlene at si Albert Landicho na hindi ko alam, may tawag ng tanghalan champion pala. At siyempre sina Ace Hagunase, sina Dennis De Parine, at Alfredo Baustino, Rose Calleja, at yung iba pa, hindi ko na po muna siguro mababanggit pa sa ngayon dahil hindi ko dala yung aking itong aking kodigo, So, mamaya ko na lang po na ihahabol ko yung mga palagyang binabati. Samantala, itong ating pong programa ay crowdfunded. Ito po ay for public interest purposes. So, wala po tayong sponsor. Kaya maaari po kayong mag-donate sa amin ni Ed pamamagitan po ng patreon.com/UFOSP. Sumadya lamang po sa website na yan, www.patreon.com/UFOSP. Kung kayo naman po ay may pondo sa PayPal, maaari po ninyong magpadala ng inyong tulong sa inyong lingkod sa www.paypal.me/Tony Israel. Gayun din, pamamagitan ng video, dami na dami na. Savings account number 0830-113525. At sa pangalan po ng inyong lingkod, Antonio P. Israel, yan din po gagamitin ninyo. Magpapadala kayo sa Cebuana, Luwilier, WU, Palawan, at ang number na ipong itatala ay 0906-3970601. Ay kung pasalamatan ng ating pong mga Patreon donors na si Patpat Maruhumadil ng Davao City, si Yan Yan ng Cebu, at ang ating pong one-time donor na si Rose Calleja ng Jordan. At syempre, kahapon nagpadala si Edwin Esmilian, nagpa-Cebuana. Maraming salamat para din sa ating sinasagawang nagiging palagian na nagiging mainit itong Wealth of the Nations. So, magandang gabi sa iyo, Ed.
Hi, good evening, Tony. Good evening to everybody. Good day to everybody. Yung nanonood ngayon, those watching the show, and those who will be watching it later.
At syempre, napakahalaga ng ating programa ngayon dahil ito po ang kauna-unang pagkakataon. This will be the very first time that we will be having a guest from abroad na foreign individual. And then, hindi lamang po sa ganun, but siya po ay isang specialist when it comes to exopolitics. And of course, when it comes to close encounters of the fifth kind. Dahil yung pagkakaunawa natin close encounters of the third kind. Yun yung popular sa TV. Tapos merong fourth kind pala at merong fifth kind. Pero kung may time pa ho tayo, atin po yan tatalakayin. Ang ating pong panauhin ngayon ay si Mr. Neil Gould. Mr. Neil Gould was one of our esteemed speakers during the 2011 UFOSP conference. So it's been a very long time since we last met, 7 years ago. And along with Mr. Gerard Artsen of the Netherlands and Miss Lily Dueñas and Professor Argonza, It was one of the it was well attended affair, and many of our guests, Neil, during that time wanted to hear more from you. Only we had a constraint in time. That's why they weren't able to exhaust much of the information that they would want to have from you. They're very hungry, and and so are we at the moment, especially when it comes to the aspect of discussing exopolitics. As I mentioned earlier, Ed and myself are embarking on discussing exopolitics in the future because there's nothing much at the moment to discuss about UFOs. So we're very pleased and we're very honored to have Mr. Neil Gould as our esteemed guest for tonight's show's Alien Talk. Good evening, Neil.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me. And of course, I send my regards to all those people that I met at your conference. I remember Roseanne Escudero, Jolan, Gina Vineva, of course, you and Ed. Many, many names stuck in my head.
Me too, likewise. There's so many names in there, and they're very much around, still waiting for another conference or another round of conference that might that we might be able to arrange very soon. So we will be joined tonight by Ed Neri, who will be throwing in our first question that we'll be addressing. So Ed, please do the honors of asking the first question that you would like to pitch in to Neil.
Well, I'd like to start with some events that has been happening in. I don't know if Neil has heard or read or listened to something about what's happening in the Philippines. 2 months ago, last June, we had a very good sighting of an orange disc that hovered over Laguna de Bay. It stayed for around 10 to 12 minutes, flew southeast after that, and disappeared. And this was tracked by one of our members, Suzara. And it was a good thing that he was using a Nikon Colpex P900 that could really zoom into the to this object. So he had a very good picture, which we posted in our group page. That was 2 months ago. But lately, there has been some feedback also that there was a craft that came in from from the North Pole and went to Green. And I think there was some raucous about Russia and the U.S. being worried that it was an attack or something. And then it went to the Philippines, hovered for a few moments, and then went back to Greenland and landed in that area. And there was also another sighting, which I think Tony has several photos of this, which he could flash. And the reason I'm mentioning this is it seems that there is now a very active presence of this UFO in the last few months here in the Philippines. So is this, does it mean that there are now more coming in? Is this a harbinger of possible disclosure or their presence being felt? And I think this is in the field of exopolitics that we would like to hear more about from you, Neil, being the expert in this area on exopolitics.
All right. Okay, let me first of all start off by explaining to you what is exopolitics. Up until now, all these years, the only tool we had were the old ways of ufology, where the investigators demanded physical proof. You had to have a physical object in your hand. You had to have a physical imprint on the ground. You had to have something that you could kick the tires to prove it. And we've been going round and round in circles with ufology for years and years with no progress. So there was a new tool that was introduced called exopolitics. Now, exopolitics, its definition, is the study of the social and the political implications of extraterrestrials engaging this planet. It's also the study of all the researchers, the actors, the people concerned in the field. So with ufology, you had to have a quantitative approach, this physicality I was talking about. But with exopolitics, we can have a qualified approach, which means, for example, witness testimony. You could take a witness, he could, especially a contactee or anybody who'd seen something, and his testimony is listened to and scrutinized. So this tool enables us to go a little bit further down the line and take more into account when you're studying the field. But exopolitics, you know, it's such an important tool because it now, unlike ufology, it also embraces consciousness. It's embracing activities that are happening in space and space programs. It has a bearing on, for example, geopolitical activities around the world, you know, the major powers, what they're doing around the world and what the undertones are. So this is what exopolitics is all about. And the key to the whole UFO field, actually, apart from just this qualitative approach, is also the field of consciousness, the study of consciousness. You hear more and more and more about people talking about consciousness because we are living in a 3D world, in literally in a box, and everything that is actually happening in reality is not only happening in the box, but for example, when you look at physics, many of the problems of physics cannot be solved within the 3D reality. But when you go into hyperspace outside of the 3D, suddenly all the little jigsaws fall into place. So exopolitics is critical in taking this whole process forward. Now, if we start to talk about your sightings, for example, sightings may or may not be stepping up. It just may be more and more people are having cell phones, more and more people are aware, they're seeing what's there all the time, because these phenomena, if you look in all the old books and the old papers and documents, you'll see going back to Christopher Columbus, even down through the medieval times, there's art. Even if you go down to cave paintings, you'll see art of these strange creatures on the walls and caves, which in effect is a form of contact, because you're getting people from 50,000 years ago that looked up, or perhaps these beings came down, which it appears they did, and made contact. And these ancient people have obviously, you know, some of them are artistic. They actually drew on the walls of the cave what they saw. This, we would say, is also some form of evidence.
This drawing, Neil, would be the primitive kind of disclosure.
Exactly, but you know, all disclosure is primitive. It doesn't really, it's not all that complicated when it actually happens. In actual fact, we've actually had many rounds of disclosure already. There's absolutely nothing, almost nothing, that we still have to learn from the government, that we can't learn from experiences. You know, everything is out there. It's just a question if you know where to look. What people want to do, you see, they want the very same people who lied to them that there's no aliens and no ETs and no UFOs. They want those same people to tell them that they are. You see, this is the kind of hostage situation, the Stockholm syndrome that humanity is stuck in, that we're relying on the old constructs to confirm, you know, what we already know. And part of exopolitics with consciousness and awakening and all the law within exopolitics is to actually not only tell us what's out there, but also to teach us what's out there. You know, I'm a director of the Exopolitics certification, the Exopolitics Institute in the States, and I'm on the board with, must be at least 80 scientists, astronauts, researchers, you name it. And they're in our advisory board. And, you know, we have an Exopolitics certification program where we actually have online lessons. So we're actually going a step further and educating people so they can come into the field and understand more rather than be overtaken by the hogwash. You know, like you remember the old at your conference, people were standing up saying, "Oh, 2012, gonna, you know, the seas, the ground's going to come up through the sea." I think your guy's name was Professor Earl, and this was going to happen, that's what's going to happen, and everybody's going, oh, you know, and everybody, because there's a truth vacuum for 70 years. So it's very easy for a new Jesus Christ to stand up and say, follow me, boys. This is what we want to avoid. We want to have an awakening for the people.
Right, right. The big problem, I think, that I noticed is that everybody who are saying about having a disclosure, actually, yeah, you're right in the sense that they want the government to do it, or they want an official, and the official is the government declaration. But as you say, a lot of things are happening already that in itself are disclosures. It's just how you analyze it, how you handle it, and this is, I think, where exopolitics is coming in.
You see, the Vatican has already realized that it's all coming out. So they've rushed already to not lose their place. And their cardinal, for example, one of their chief exorcist, Caruda Balducci, came out and said, yes, you know, they are out there. They you know, we would baptize them, you know, if they came to earth. You know, don't think of God as somebody who's limited, who can't create something greater than what we already have. And then you had Cardinal Fumers from the Vatican Observatory coming out and also unloading his rhetoric, if you like, about you know, extraterrestrial life and what have you. And you know, we have all the releases of all the documents from the British UFO files, and now from America with this new To the Stars Academy. It's just been released, and you know, they've been putting out, the American government through the To the Stars Academy have put out this film showing you the Tic Tac UFO that's been shadowing the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier for 3 days and doing incredible maneuvers. So it's coming out, but what they want to try and do is avoid any adverse negative implications. I mean, these people in the US government that say, leave this alone, don't tell anybody, because, you know, these are demons. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. You know, you've got people like that in the US government.
So I think you did mention a few moments ago about the fact that when you go into exopolitics, it's not only the material. I mean, the kicking of the tire to confirm that there is such a thing. But you mentioned something about consciousness, going into consciousness, and I think relative to that would be, or related to that is, the idea about dimensions, interdimensions, and trying to understand this and link this together with the sightings, the encounters involving UFO. I mean, is that the direction that's taken now?
Well, that's basically people realized over the years that during some sightings, the people were actually talking to them in their minds, and they were getting a reaction from the craft. So there's some kind of quantum entanglement between the human brain and the abilities of these beings to make some kind of psychic connection. And they would say, sort of, move to the left, and the craft moved to the left, move to the right, craft moved to the right. And it progressed and progressed until Dr. Greer came out with the protocols for the CE5, where he uses like sound, light, and coherent thought sequencing through meditation to bring these craft in. This is just one aspect of course, is understanding that these beings can fly these craft, which are in themselves artificial intelligence, extreme intelligence, and they are conscious interfaced. And some of the beings, biological entities that are flying these craft are not alive necessarily, but they have biological tissue, but they've been engineered and made, and they are part of the craft. Even though they can come out of the craft and walk among you, whatever, they also pilot these craft. So the aspect of consciousness is very broad until you then get to the topic of, you know, what am I looking at? You know, you might look at something, when you see it, it might be 20 feet wide. When you go inside it, it might be 100 feet wide. There have been many of these kind of reports. And it's etheric abilities to sort of dissolve and manifest. And, you know, the whole issue of consciousness in terms of our multidimensional selves. You know, there's many of these experiences now are talking about we are multidimensional, that we're existing at the same time on many, many dimensions. And some people, and I'm working on that now myself with this brain entrainment through sound, is to make contact with your higher self and perhaps make contact with 5D reality, where these beings are sitting waiting for those people who are able to get through. And, you know, they are having incredible relationships with many, many of these contactees.
Now, I got a question for you. Why is it called exopolitics, and how is it close or different from conspiracy theories?
Well, conspiracy theory always blends into everything. You can't help it. So you have to be very discerning in whatever discipline you're in. You have to be very, very discerning. Exopolitics is basically, we say exo because it's outside of terrestrial politics. It embraces the whole structure of all the levels of activity of extraterrestrials on the planet, off the solar system, and in, you know, amongst the galaxies. So this is the important part of exopolitics. So we're also looking at the politics of exopolitics. There are politics amongst extraterrestrial beings, extraterrestrial civilizations, councils. There are all sorts of politics involving subjugation of one species, you know, co-creating another species, and that species commitment to the host species. It's very, very complicated when you get onto it, and you soon begin to realize, you know, that we are also a hybrid. Everything is hybridized out in space. All the nations hybridize each other. So there are certain connections. You know, why do they come here? Because they're coming to see what they made. Many, many, many of them, we hold the DNA to many, many of these species. And I mean, you just look at the hybridization program that you hear about with the abductions and what have you. It's all got to do with genetics and hybridization, which is very exopolitical.
Yeah, we have several members that that claims that they have been abducted. So these are some of the members in our local group, and I think this is one database that we have to create and find out who are these members that claim to have been abducted, and find out if it's a real situation or if it's just mental.
Well, the thing is, you also have to realize that all of us and millions of other people have had some kind of interaction. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this crazy, non-illogical obsession for talking about this stuff, going onto the radio, inviting guests, and thinking about it all day long, and being interested in all sorts of things and flash. Why? This is not a coincidence. There's a reason. You know, there's a reason. There's an awakening in you.
It's not spontaneous. And it comes out from somewhere.
It comes out because there is, whether you've been abducted or not, you've certainly been connected, you know, through your DNA or whatever. There's no reason for all of us. Suddenly we all get together and we all got this feeling, and we're chasing and chasing and chasing, researching, and it's evolving, and it's supposed to be that way, because you can't jump from A to B in 5 minutes. You've got to go through processes of learning, desperation, you know, looking up, researching, talking to people, getting other people's opinions, watching what's happening in the military, watching what's happening in the religious institutions, understanding the exact structure of your society that you live in. Why is it like that? What are the other civilizations like? Because at the moment, for them to just come down here and land, quite frankly, would be talking to either an ant, or let's say a very, very wild ant, a very destructive ant.
Neil, that has always been the question being asked by a lot of the UFOSP members. Why are they not coming down? If they are here already, they are here outside, up there, why are they not coming down and showing themselves?
Well, the fact of the matter is they do all the time. First of all, you've got different kinds. You've got interdimensionals, you know, that are perhaps coming in and not breaking the prime directive of non-interference, but rather helping you with crop circles, because these are energetically charged patterns. When your brain looks at them, you might not understand them, but your higher self gets a feed off from those crop circles, you know. even when you're looking at paintings on the wall of a cave, it's having an effect on you because you remember it, and you remember it the next time you talk to somebody. These are all energetically charged symbols. And a lot of what you hear about these people on the craft that are taken up in craft relates to symbols. You know, you even look at the Freemasons and all these kind of people in society, they all have symbols. These are all energetically charged things that appeal to a certain aspect of yourself. So why don't they come down? Well, they do. There's contact cases all the time happening every single day. There's contact physically. There's contact mind to mind. There's channeling mind to mind. There's all different types of contact. And of course, the interplanetary aliens are sitting in Area 51 at S4 and working with the military. And we have many, many extraterrestrials that are living under the ground. And we have them all the time flying above you. See them all the time. It's not a question not here. The question is, when will society be ready to integrate with the stellar community? Right now, we're a bunch of wild animals. I mean, look what we are doing. How can you come to this planet, talk to people who pollute the sea full of plastic? Everywhere is plastic in the sea. In the sky, everywhere is acid rain, fog, smog, rubbish, right? You look at your forests, all been cut down, cut down, cut down, cut down. You know, if you killed every human on the planet would thrive. Isn't that a terrible thing? So what do you want these people to come down and talk for? You've got to get up to them. You've got to get up to their level. They've done enough helping us, believe me. They've done a lot of stuff, like, for example, when Chernobyl happened and when Fukushima happened, they reduced the radiation level by something. You know, but they've stopped nuclear wars. They've done enough.
From whom are we supposed to gather this information? Is there a sort of a way of confirming that this is the message, that this is the sort
messages
of that they would like to convey, and from whom? Who is an authority?
First of all, you look at all the witness testimony. It's all over the internet. The witness testimony. Then you can go and look at these books that Gerald Artson was talking about, George Adamski.
Yes.
The Adamski case. Read all the stuff of George Adamski. Look at the videos of George Adamski. There's one of them called Alien Contacts. It's an hour-long documentary. You look at all that. You look at all the friendship case, very famous, the friendship case. You look on YouTube, the friendship case, where the beings came down into Italy, all around the place, all around the world. They sent their scientists to work with us secretly. They had people interfacing with humans. The messages are here. You know the messages, because when I talk to you, it resonates with you. You see, you know, that's why you're doing what you're doing. And all the people that are watching the show, they know too. But you have to do the research. See, it can't be given to you on a plate. But doing what you're doing, bringing people like myself onto the program, it's also helping spread the situation.
Of course, but we still lack the finesse, and we still lack the flair of handling these questions. Indeed, Ed was right when he told you that we're getting a lot of inquiry regarding experiences of this and that, about abduction and about some messages being communicated to them. But we unfortunately, I myself is still lacking the proper information and the proper knowledge on how to deal with them. Now, there's a particular question here. What's the difference between ufology and exopolitics?
Okay, ufology is an approach. It's a quantitative approach where they're looking at the nuts and bolts as evidence, where they only have to see the physical artifacts to prove something. Exopolitics does that as well, but we go a step further. For example, we take witness testimony. It's a qualitative approach. We take witness testimony into account, and we have more tools to go further than ufology. Ufology is something of the past, is dying. Exopolitics is taken over as a science that studies the politics, the political spectrum, you know, the social implications, what happens when disclosure happens, what happens to society, how do we deal with it, how does the religious community deal with it, how does the educational community deal with the science people who said, for example, speed of light is constant, you can't go faster. Do we have to send them all back to school? What happens in the banking community? What happens in the energy community? The very, very, very thing that makes us slaves. What happens there? So, you know, ufology just is really something that is really nuts and bolts looking at holes in the ground, looking at radioactivity, that kind of stuff. But, they will not necessarily believe the witness. Whereas in exopolitics, we have ways of discerning, looking what people have to lose. For example, if a guy comes and he's got a security clearance and he tells you something, he's shocked. He's telling you he's got a lot to lose. He's got security clearances. He shouldn't be talking. Or a lawyer or a doctor gives you testimony. That he'll lose all his patients and he could lose all his income. People have got things to lose. So it's the basis of the legal system. If you go to court and somebody kills somebody and there's no body, they can't find the dead body, the guy can still go to jail. They can find him guilty without a body because they use witness testimony. And that is where exopolitics wins over ufology.
Okay, very well said. Ed, any further question you got?
No, I'm just listening. I'm mesmerized by the explanation.
Okay. Well, what we can do, we can also talk about the very latest. I'm sure you might have heard of, the pop star idol, Tom DeLonge. Tom DeLonge was Blink 182. And what he was also very much into exopolitics, or what have you, and ufology. And he actually got together with the insiders of the UFO field. Mm-hmm. And they put together something called the To the Stars Academy. And To the Stars Academy, they are the ones that released this film of the Tic Tac UFO. Now, it's not a fake film because the custodial record of that film goes all the way back to the Pentagon. Now, I made just a little few notes for you here. The purpose of the TTS, the To the Stars Academy, is, for example, to expand on science, aerospace, and entertainment. These are the three headings. Now, for example, under science, they're looking at consciousness, which we spoke about, engineering of space-time, brain-computer interface, telepathy. We have many, many people working on telepathy. Many scientists are working on telepathy. Rupert Sheldrake from Oxford University, the cell biologist, analyzing UAP, analyzing unidentified aerial phenomena. Okay, that is one aspect of what To the Stars Academy are doing. The second aspect of what they're doing is aerospace, electrogravitic propulsion systems. They're looking at that. They're looking at these craft, back engineering, trying to find out how these things fly. Okay, I come to a bit more deeper in all this. Beamed energy and launch systems. And finally, the third category is entertainment. What does that mean? It's exactly what I was saying. We're talking about the implications of disclosure. What's going to happen to these institutions? Well, they're going to be making feature films. They're going to be making documentaries, publishing, storytelling, to get people acclimatized. They're not going to do it very, very quickly, but I can tell you within 1 year, they're going to make another big release within this next year. Now, who's in the To the Stars Academy? You've got Tom DeLonge. Now, I'll just give you a couple of people. There's Jim Semivan. He's ex-intelligence community. You've got Dr. Hal Puthoff. I've also worked with the guy on something. He's an advisor to NASA, space propulsion, electron beam devices, leading edge of future technology. Then you have Steve Justice. He's the ex-Lockheed Martin, Skunk Works, make all the big jets and things. He's involved in advanced design, prototyping. And then my favorite is Luis Elizondo. He's the guy who's doing all the talking. You can look on YouTube. You'll see him, To the Stars Academy, Luis Elizondo. He gives you the update of everything that's going on. He's ex-intelligence officer, Department of Defense, and Aerospace Threat Identification Program. They've also got biomedical researchers and molecular biologists. So you got to think now, it's really, really interesting. They've come out into the open. They've come out with the blessing of the secret government, and they have a schedule, a program, and it's coming out. Now, what it is, I don't know if you remember recently, there was something in the TV or the papers, I don't know in the Philippines or not, that they suddenly found that the Pentagon had been studying UFOs for 20 years, the last 20 years, and everybody went, oh, wow. And they spent $23 million. Okay, that's a drop in the ocean. But the point was, when they said that Project Blue Book ended in 1969, they weren't interested anymore. Well, of course, they are interested. They're always interested. They're always turning up all around the world with their intelligence people, checking out other people's stories. So they have what's called the Advanced Threat Identification Program. And what it is the study of these UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, UFOs. They want to study them because in terms of military, in terms of security, UFOs are a threat. They're a threat because as far as the military are concerned, these things are flying around. They can't catch them. Not only can't they catch them, these things disappear. They make right-hand turns at 6,000 miles an hour and blink in and blink out. And they can be hidden from radar. So in their minds, it's a threat. So they want to know what this is. So they never use the word alien. They never use the word extraterrestrial, which is the right thing to do, because if you start doing that, everybody says, oh, another lunatic, another idiot, another stupid program, little green men. They're very clever about it. They never mention alien. And this is brilliant. And you should look up To the Stars Academy on YouTube. Look up Luis Elizondo. You'll see he's fantastic. He tells it as it is. You can go to the tothestarsacademy.com. tothestarsacademy.com and watch the video. So this is the latest, most exciting thing in my view that is now coming out.
Is
And
there
as
any
somebody-
involvement of the military in this group, Neil?
Sorry?
Is there any involvement of the military? Because I mean, it seems that every time the military is involved, their tendency is to how they can weaponize, how they can take advantage of the technology that they will find.
Well, they already have, I won't go too deep into it, but they already have a lot of back engineered technology, okay? The point is they want to bring something out into the public because you can't go another 70 years hiding everything. They want to actually, I think that in my view, what they're very, very interested in is to acclimatize the human mind to what's going on. Because even though we think, tell us more, there are so many stupid people in government and institutions. There's so many stupid institutions that the information cannot flow freely. It gets distorted and then, it doesn't come out in the end. In fact, it does more damage. So they want to change people's minds, open their minds up, let them slowly but surely realize that we're not alone, and it's not a bad thing, and perhaps we could get technologies that we could use and perhaps increase our spiritual abilities as sentient beings on the planet. Stop throwing bloody plastic in the sea. Stop killing people. I mean, do you know how many people die every day from these countries? I mean, exporting arms to Saudi Arabia and killing a busload of kids. I mean, you've got crazy people blowing people up all around the world. We need to get over these hurdles. I believe To the Stars Academy is making some attempt at that as well. They're making an attempt at everything. They're even making an attempt at building a craft for the general community. It's in their manifesto. You can see it on tothestarsacademy.com.
What the effect of this, the entertainment side of this group, are they trying to redirect entertainment in such a way that aliens will be looked at as more favorable rather than as evil, bad aliens, negative forces, dark forces? I mean, is this the role that the entertainment portion of that group is going to follow? Are we going to see movies that will be more positive rather than negative?
I think this is what they're trying to do down the line over the next 3 years. First, they've come out with their first 2 films showing the Tic Tac UFOs buzzing the HMS aircraft carrier Nimitz, and you hear the pilots talking. They can't catch these things. It's amazing. So they're showing you a film. It's entertainment in a way, but it's actually release of information. And then the next stage will be, perhaps more stuff that will come out on film. And slowly but surely they'll go and they'll say, oh, what could these things be? They could be one of 2 things. They're either China and Russia with some advanced craft, but on the other hand, we don't think they're more advanced than us, so they can't have those. So it leaves only one other possibility. And we'll get to that point when they feel it's the right time. There's only one possibility. Perhaps this is something that is not 100% physical and it's coming from somewhere else. And then people will say, oh, maybe these things come from other worlds. And they'll go, yes, maybe we can look at that. And then now they're talking about examining material for one of these unidentified aerial phenomena objects. They've got this material and they're studying this material. And they're going to release information about this material. They've found so far that they can get two materials and fuse them together, which cannot happen in our world. They've got all this kind of stuff going on. You know?
On the science side, Neil, I mean, we got some information that's coming out. One is the declaration of President Trump of creating that Space Force. And then we have several whistleblowers that is saying that who was that guy who died, the old man who died? He said he designed that spacecraft.
William Tonkin.
And then William Tonkin, yes, William Tonkin. He mentioned about designing this big cigar-shaped spacecraft for the Navy, and we have been seeing that in a lot of the YouTubes that has been seen. And then there's of course the Phoenix Lights, which actually is the TR3B, and these are, and all indications seems to be that there are some alliances now on Earth that has this technology. And would this Space Force now that Trump is ordering to be formed will come out later that we have this in the same manner that they said, oh, we have this Raptor now, stealth crafts. And in the same manner, Space Force will say, oh, we have this TR3B for some time. We have this cigar-shaped spacecraft for some time.
Exactly. The announcement of the Space Force, I mean, it's just something they have to do. But of course, they have, if you remember the story of Gary McKinnon, the guy who hacked into NASA's computers as a kid in the UK. I actually went out to Las Vegas myself and made a documentary and filmed these things flying in the sky. If you go into YouTube, you can see, you put Neil Gould, Gary McKinnon, you can see the film I made. And yeah, I mean, these things are flying around at 30,000, 40,000 miles an hour. They glow, they do right-hand turns. This has sort of been going on for, 50 years. So you really can't imagine how far in the future we really are. I mean, even the To the Stars Academy don't know because it's so compartmentalized, the system in the United States. You've got different agencies all over the place. Nobody's got the whole picture. So it's very complicated.
Wasn't it Tompkins who said we now have the technology to bring ET home?
No, that was Ben Rich of Lockheed Skunk.
Ah, right. So I mean, if they say that they now have the technology to bring ET home, that's basically saying we now have this spacecraft that goes into deep space.
Correct.
I mean, that's the only explanation or interpretation.
If you look at the whistleblower's testimony,
teleportation or Stargate technology.
You look at whistleblower's testimony. You look at all the people that have worked in Area 51, Bob Lazar, all these people and what they've seen inside there and the different craft. And I mean, they've been back engineering this stuff since Roswell, maybe even before Roswell. So they actually, they've had, they're in a secret place in the middle of the desert. They can fly around, stuff around there all the day long and not be seen. They've got the greatest minds in the country they can recruit. They've got ETs walking around S4, tall whites. They've got grays. They've got all sorts of, perhaps reptilians in some cases. So there's no shortage of source of information, and there's been no shortage of money because, I mean, 21 trillion has gone missing from the USA budget, according to some of the papers. So you can guess where that's gone into, this research, the Star Wars. It's, the pictures, we are only able to talk about the tip of the iceberg because the more we go deeper into it, the more we become unbelievable. People will start to disbelieve us. So I'm very careful about that which I talk about. I never go too deep. I just like to get people over the basics and onto the threshold of what the possibilities are.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got
that's
a
true.
question. We got a question from Rose Calleja, and she's asking, "What about those in Antarctica? Is it real or just only a conspiracy theory?" Maybe she was
Yeah.
okay.
Personally, the Germans were down there during the Second World War, and they had real advanced technology, flying saucers, atomic-driven flying saucers came out and attacked the U.S. naval fleet under Admiral Byrd. These things were flying around, and they got severely beaten by these things. If you're telling me, you know, there's extraterrestrial bases down there and all the nonsense that you hear about, it's possible, but it's highly unlikely. You know, extraterrestrials have bases. They have their craft. They can create interdimensional space. They can go underground. They can go into big domes under the sea, which they do. You know, it's very difficult to give too much credence to the Antarctica story that these buried ships and this and that under the look. Anything's possible, but in terms of, you know, sometimes we have to really discern what we hear and break it down to some form of logic, even though it's not logical. But the stories that you hear are driven by people who are making money out of the field.
Yeah, that's a different story. That's a different context altogether. Now, I got a question again we got a question from Willie Aragon Raelian. May I ask Sir Neil, what's his point of view on what level now are the consciousness of our humanity to deal with our humanity outside space? Meaning, probably what he means is that, are we ready? Is our consciousness level ready to deal with this?
I think a lot of people are ready. There's no doubt in my mind, a lot of people are ready. The people that are not ready are the people who are just greedy. It's you know, they're part of these big institutions. Their whole lives they're born into making money and squandering the planetary wealth and exploiting the reserves and oil, gas, commodities, creating artificial sources. These people are certainly not ready. But you find that basically the people who are you know, in the lower social economic classes, they're all ready because they're basically not spoiled. They're quite natural and they're open in their true state. I think a lot of these people are ready. A lot of people in society are also ready because a lot of people are researching all the time about ufology and exopolitics, wanting to find out more and more and more. And every time there's an abduction and every time somebody's taken and brought back, they spread the word. Whether it's good or bad is a different story. But people are really ready to accept, in general, what's going on. The problem is some of the elites don't want you to be ready, and they'll do anything they can to tell you stories and scare you so that you won't be ready, because they don't want to lose their control on the planet. They don't want to lose their control of the big oil companies. They don't want to lose control of you going to work, paying taxes, so they can squander your money.
That's true. That's true.
So this is where we are at the moment. But I would say generally the people that are watching your program and yourselves are absolutely ready.
Now here's something I'd like to go into, which I think only you, located where you are, can tell us. Most of the information we're getting is Western oriented. I mean, it comes from Europe, it comes from the US, sometimes it comes from South America. But it's very rare, probably because of the language problem, that we're getting any information from from China or the Chinese. I mean, you are based in Hong Kong, and what are your experience? What are the latest information that's coming out of China?
Well, first of all, I don't believe anything that comes out of China. I mean, you know, I'm a businessman, as you know. I have business in China. I deal with them in China. I just don't believe. My first knee-jerk reaction is I believe nothing when it comes from China. But I do feel sorry for those academics in China. I mean, look at it this way. China has the biggest UFO clubs in the world, okay? But they're controlled by a guy called Dr. Sun Shili. Now, Dr. Sun Shili is employed by the government to keep these guys in order. So basically, they only know what he tells them. And quite honestly, a lot of it is hogwash. A lot of it is rubbish. So I don't, I mean, I've had a lot of these contactees come down from China into my office, and they bring a piece of paper with their story, and then they want money. So immediately but the point of the matter is, there's no doubt that they're having visits to the nuclear sites. We know that, the same as the Americans and the Russians are. We know that the UFOs have been switching off all the nuclear facilities at times and scaring everybody in these countries. Same with the Chinese. We know that the Chinese are seeing these things in the sky, and yes, the Chinese view it more as a science than anything else. So I don't really want to take any information from China. I think that the core of everything that is going on in the field is happening between France, UK, and the USA and South America. This is the core. This is in Australia, and this is enough to get the true picture from. If we can handle that. We can work out what's real, what's not real. But with China, as with a lot of stuff they sell, their pharmaceuticals, it's all rubbish. You can't, just a group of people there you can't trust.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, but that's the truth.
Yeah, I believe that. So the problem we have with this limited information is there are stories that are coming out, but we cannot. I mean, there are stories about the airport being closed because they saw this cigar shape. But then, how can this be verified? But anyway, if you say that you have to take stories like this with a grain of salt coming out of China and rely more on.
But those are true.
Australia.
Those are true. Those are true. When they had those three sightings in the northeast of China, Ningbo area, Shanghai, those are true. We know that because there's plenty witness testimony that's reliable. These craft came over. They hovered above the airport. They had to close the airports. Obviously there are nuclear installations around there. That's why they would do it. But that happens anywhere with these nuclear missiles. And one of your viewers asked the question: do all the leaders of the different countries know the real story? The answer is that sometimes it's not about government. It's about the intelligence services that control the government, because the national security can keep things secret, and they can tell the government, given direction, and say, we have to make this move, we have to make that move in the world, in geopolitics. We have to perhaps stop buying oil here, buy it there, or perhaps sell arms here. The intelligence services feed the government information. Well, in the main European countries, the governments know. They know. But the intelligence services know a whole lot more than what the government know. And the governments are only on a need-to-know basis. They don't have any right to get all the information, because under the umbrella of national security, the intelligence services can say, look, it's for the protection of our country. So, and the other question I think your viewer asks is, are they ready to disseminate and teach people? Well, not yet, no.
Okay, Ed.
Yeah.
So, I see. Yeah.
Well, this information. I mean, when I'm listening about this information on UFO, the first thing that comes to mind is they should. I mean, what comes to mind is the technology that is inherent in this kind of the field of interest that we have in this kind of operations, because you're talking here of probably advanced medicine. You're talking
Everything.
here of teleportation. You're talking here of free energy. I mean, if you have all of this, bring them out, give it to people. The problem is that, like in the US, everything is being patented. All the advanced technologies are being patented, and then they're just hidden under. When we got this big issue about Gaia TV, where they contract you out about the different stories, they give you they take your video, but then after a while they bury the whole story, and you can't find it anymore.
To answer the first part of your question, the story behind the fossil fuel industry, which governs every part of our lives, is they say, oh, well, we can't let the people know about UFOs because, there's a lot of jobs in the fossil fuel industry. Actually, it's a lot of nonsense. Yes, it is very big, and of course, there's a lot of jobs. But the green economy, the new space economy, is 50 times bigger than the fossil fuel industry. For example, when disclosure comes about, you will have new technologies, as you correctly said. How about information technology? How about brain interface technology, right? How about biotechnology? How about nanotechnology, shrinking everything down, having little machines running around doing stuff, fixing stuff all the time? It's endless. And the free energy would be unbelievable, because you could just literally, everybody would have a little box like this. You could control your home. You could control everything you wanted. You wouldn't have to, well, they don't want to lose control of that. So the revolution in post-disclosure civilization society would be absolutely amazing. And quite honestly, all the professors would have to go back to school. All the religious people would have to take those silly dresses off that they wear and go and put proper clothes on and go and really learn about what we really are, about the creation that we really are. And religion would have to sort of readapt and redevelop itself, reinvent itself, because it would no longer be religion, it would be spirituality, where we'd be actually, for the first time, we would not be giving away our sovereignty to these idiots that wear these robes and dresses and these religious institutions, but you'd be able to understand and commune, if you like, with the creation, with spirituality, with your higher self. And this is what the important part of our conscious development needs. We can't evolve into a higher species, and so we throw away all these ridiculous constructs.
It's going to be a disastrous scenario for a lot of these institutions, because they need to reset and reinvent themselves altogether, or perhaps they need to destroy everything, because we've been lured into an illusion that we were made to believe that this is so and this is that, but in all reality, that much of which are illusion.
It's a total illusion. I mean, it's disgusting that we sit here and the newspapers are controlled by these greedy elites, that the banks are controlled by these greedy elites. They print money by pushing a computer button. Doesn't cost them anything. They lend it to you, right? And they lend it to you as much as they want to lend to you. And then they charge you interest on something that is nothing. And then if you can't pay it, they take it away from you.
Yes, that's
right.
true.
And then you've got the religious people, all they're breeding fear into the population. I mean, this is terrible. The dogma they teach people, you'll be judged and there'll be sin, and this is all rubbish. This is what is stopping our evolution. It's the intelligence services, another aspect. They're important on the one hand to protect the people, but they have another agenda on the other hand in hand with the elites.
But one of
keeping
the
stuff secret.
One of the difficulties I see here is that we've been reading items that aliens normally or don't tend to interrupt or interfere with our affairs. So how is it going to be very possible that their intervention will be very beneficial to us, but they're not allowed to intervene?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that there's over 20 billion trillion different types of extraterrestrials. It's not they or if or him or that one. There's billions of them, right? And the ones that have an interest in us, first of all, have a way of they don't want to interfere, for example, to make some kind of negative karmic reaction. They don't want to interfere so that they do make a mistake and everything goes wrong for us, which is in effect their fault. They try and do it in the best way possible. For example, as I said, with crop circles, by energetically charging these beautiful patterns, they have some kind of meaning to our higher self. And some of our physicists and scientists are able to interpret them anyway. They make them into 3D. And like you saw in that film, what was it called? I can't remember.
Right.
The guy from Gamble. What's it? Thrive.
Thrive.
Yeah. And they bring these things to life. And you see them at toroids, showing you energy. Some of them are showing you the position of the sun and the planets at a particular time, which is true. There's many, many aspects of the intervention. You have the watchers, you have the helpers, you have the people, the beings who are downloading through somnivision while you're sleeping, like Professor Hawkins and all these people. They've been getting information during their sleep. They wake up with the answer miraculously. You know, you've got many, many, many ways. For example, one-on-one intervention, they do that. They'll come to a contactee, but they won't let everybody else see it. Then they'll go to another one, and one by one, and they hope that those jewels of those few people will send ripples out of the lake that will affect everybody. So they make the contribution that way. When they abduct, we call it abduction. I call it really an unconsenting encounter. You know, they're just doing what we have to do to create new civilizations and to create better beings. We certainly need better beings, hybrids on this planet than the types we've got now. And it wouldn't be such a bad thing if they slowly release those beings that they made into our community, which they are doing in a very specific way, to a small extent at the moment, hoping to change things.
There's a segue that I'd like to ask, because we have always been talking about extraterrestrials coming from beyond. How do you relate this to the narrative about inner Earth, or beings that are coming from inner Earth? Do you believe in that idea?
You know, okay, you remember when you're talking to me, I don't look at everything from a 3D perspective. I'm looking at it up to a 5D perspective, as much as I can understand, and that's very little. But every single planet that you see out there, every single star actually has a certain energy. And for example, you look at Venus, or you look at some of the stars, whatever. These particular places might be hot with nothing living on them because it cannot harbor life. But in the higher frequencies, okay, you might not want to call them dimensions, but in the higher frequencies, they are not as hot in a different frequency. So in the inner Earth, for example, it's not a question of believe or don't believe. I'm open to the fact that on a different frequency, the inner Earth does have a habitable area where you have advanced beings, because in any higher frequency, anywhere, which we know that exists interdimensionally, there are beings, and they are visiting us in these amazing craft. So yes, I think in the inner Earth, in terms of a fourth dimension, so to speak, there would be people living there. But if you move away from the inner Earth and you come back to 3D, I have no doubt that in certain deep caverns in the Earth's crust, you do have many, many of these reptilians that have been living there way before we arrived. And they didn't evolve from the dinosaur either. They're pre-dinosaur.
Okay. So can we state that these reptilians that are in the 3D world, in the deep Earth and in the deep caverns, are actually from outside the world or outside the Earth?
I think, yes, I think many things, yes, I think they came from elsewhere, you know. There's different types of them. There's many different types down there. There's some not very good types either, you know, not doing very good things to us. But there's also, you know, a lot of the scientists, they're scientifically orientated, they're geneticists in the main. Yeah, they are. Some of them are imperialistically minded, some are not. There are many down there.
And some of them might already be influencing governments, particularly.
Oh, no
US.
doubt about it. There's some aspect of them, yes, no doubt, are working with agencies and black projects. So you see a lot of these military abductions. These people are taken down into hollowed out mountains that are connected to, you know, human laboratories or installations under the ground. And these reptilians are seen, you know, coming in, sometimes, you know, exercising heinous acts against some of the people inside there. Yeah, it's unfortunately, it's a big mix-up of, you know, you have good humans and you have bad humans. I mean, you have Sister Teresa and all those nice people, and then you have your President Marcos, and you have Adolf Hitler, and you have you know, Mao Zedong in China, and you have the guys in Cambodia who are killing, you know, and then you have like good and bad and all sorts, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the key to the whole point is that what we have to realize, we do not have predominance over the universe as humans. And the second thing we must realize, the only evil ones and destructive ones on this planet is us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, may I get a question from Chito or Celia? How or what ordinary people can do to convince governments to get rid of those elites and intelligence group just to get the right information about this?
Well,
I mean, what
Tito,
can we
you
do
have
with the evil? Maybe that's what she's trying to say.
yeah, well, I think that the problem is that the intelligence people are influencing the government. It's not telling the government to get rid of the intelligence people and the elites. The elites are the ones who put their candidates into power. You understand? The elites are the ones who put their candidates to get elected into power. So it's a reverse situation. We cannot talk to government because the elites are behind the government. They're the ones keeping them in power. The military, when it's got all its back engineered technology, etc., it doesn't keep it in the military. It moves it into the big corporations, so they look clean, like Lockheed Skunk Works, for example. Boeing, all these IBM. They're the people holding all the secrets. You'd think government would have power over them. They don't. Everything's on a need-to-know basis. The intelligence communities really keep it all wrapped up. And Area 51 is not even on USA soil. It's on Red Indian, indigenous peoples' areas. So there's very little that people can do to stop the CIA working there, because the CIA is not supposed to work in America. It's supposed to work outside America. But because it's Indian land, it's not counted as USA. So they're in there. It's very complicated.
Is that so? Oh. That's the first time I heard of that. So all the while I was thinking that Area 51 is on U.S. soil.
Well, there you are. It's US soil when it suits them, and it's Indian soil when it suits them too. So it is on US soil. It's on Indian indigenous land. Yeah.
Indigenous land. Okay. Yes, Ed.
Not the Indian. I mean, we're talking of another continent, the Indian continent.
Yeah, we were brought up as kids to watch cowboy and Indian films. The cowboys shooting Indians. The good guys were the cowboys and the bad guys were the Indians. Until I grew up and I realized the good guys were the Indians and the bad guys were the white cowboys who came in and killed them.
That's true, because that's what happened in the Philippines 300
Yes.
years ago.
Indigenous people as Indians. That's how they address indigenous people, because
Indians,
Filipinos were called as Indians before.
Yes.
You mentioned something about the elite, but I think these are, I call them the oligarchs. These are the people, the rich people who have the economic power and the influence of government. And
Now,
as you
believe
said,
me,
these are the people that are actually funding the election of certain individuals. So
the oligarchs are small time. The elites are big time.
big time. Okay.
Like the Reserve Bank in America. When I tell people that the Reserve Bank of America is private, they fall flat in their face. They can't believe it. The Reserve Bank in America is private. Yes. The Federal Reserve is private institution. Who owns it? Elites and other banks that they own. These elites are not like oligarchs. Oligarch is 1 billion to 10 billion. An elite has got power and money you cannot imagine. And influence.
Right. All right. Yes. So, you think these aliens are going to topple the elites soon, or are they formulating some strategies that they could teach us how to topple these elites?
That's exactly what they won't do. Is they will not do our dirty work for us. What they're doing is they're coming from a grassroots level from the bottom and then trying to work from the bottom up. How do you do that? You fly a spacecraft in the sky. 100 people see it. They tell 100 people. Then you got 200 people who know about it. Another one flies. Another 200 people see it. 200 more people realize. They work from the bottom up. Once the human consciousness rises to particular critical mass, we just need about 5 or 10% of the planet. Some people say as low as 3. But if we said, okay, 5%, if 5% of the planet really realize what's going on, you would find the political structures, you'd find the government structures, you'd find some of the institutions would start to collapse. Because I'll give you an example in a very, very easy way. If everybody said tomorrow we're not going to buy any petrol for 2 months, and we didn't buy any petrol, can you imagine the oil company, what would happen to them, how much they'd lose? You see, if we all got together and said no more, that's what I'm trying to say. Everybody said no more paying, dirtying the thing with petrol. We want free energy. We want no more of this way you're operating with the banking and the financial system. We don't want it anymore. It would make a difference. And that's what they're trying to do, to get us to awaken. The elites are very scared of an awakened humanity. They're very scared. They're going to lose power, because with an awakened humanity, what you will have is government by consensus, where everybody would be brought into the decision-making in government. Somebody would represent the forests, somebody dedicated to the forests, somebody dedicated to the dolphins and the marine life, somebody dedicated to every aspect of life in this planet would be in this government and would be working by consensus. And this is the spirituality that the extraterrestrials want us to strive towards.
Well, that's a long way off, is it?
It's happening every day. You see, the whales are coming to us with their story. Got plastic bags in my stomach. And people are now starting to not use plastic bags. It's coming. And step by step by step by step. You know, I don't even think, I think that Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, he is actually against all these elites. He's doing the opposite to what they want. And this is all something to do with our consciousness that's making all this happen. You can't see it now, but you'll see it.
Yeah. Now, as we are approaching the...
We're facing a situation where we'll just suddenly, spontaneously, just come to realize.
It will happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
And spontaneous, massive realization or massive conscious awakening.
I think I think we're on that road. That path is set because, you know, I know from the field and the statistics that have been taken that there's more and more people talking about the encounters. This is very important. If you've had this extraterrestrial encounter like I've had, you talk about it. You know, people think I'm nuts. People in my family, friends, they think I'm nuts. But I don't care, because you see, not only have I had this face-to-face with extraterrestrials, so many people I know have also. So, you know, I'm working with Dr. Rebecca Hardcastle. I'm part of her Institute of Exha Consciousness. Now, I've got so many people there, with not only with the experience of contact, but have got the experience enough to teach what they've been experiencing and to help people understand that there's healing to be done, self-healing. There's frequencies to be recognized, these frequencies that can come in and can help you. That's why I'm studying this sacred acoustics at the moment, this brain entrainment, where you get these oscillations of different frequencies through your earpiece, and then some primitive part of your brain creates a third frequency, and you have an out-of-body experience. And once you move the conscious mind out the way, you're able to look into something else. And that's what I'm very excited about. And this is why I'm working with the Institute of Exha Consciousness.
Exha consciousness is another field or another discipline.
Right. It's consciousness, but it's exo consciousness. It's really about the innate human potential, human abilities that we all have, and that we should be exploring them within ourselves and making contact with whatever we feel we can contact. If we're getting these voices or these feelings or these signals or frequencies or understandings or downloads, is to explore them and to bring them into your life and to share them.
So as we are approaching the last few minutes of our show before we wrap this up, there's one question that I'd like to ask you. Is it true that we are fighting aliens, or there's a recent article here that Russian fleet rushes to Arctic over fears U.S. may have started a war with unknown alien species. What's your take on this? Could that be true, or are we?
My take on this is that if humans started a war with aliens, the next war we'd be fighting with sticks and stones. It couldn't happen. No, I don't think there's a physical war. Not that kind of war, no. Certainly a political war, yes. There are obviously agendas. You know, space is full of agendas. Everybody has agendas. And those are the wars that people are fighting, but it's not with weapons, fortunately.
Yeah, even the ETs have agendas.
It's all about agenda. Every single phenomenon is all about agenda. Consciousness, agenda, genetics.
Okay. And then the Perine has this comment, and awakening would still be a long way to go unless UFOs and the aliens finally reveal themselves. So
Well, the spontaneous revealing of aliens would send us back 100 years. Because, as I said to you, there are key people who still view them as demons. And just by them showing up in uneducated people in key positions who are uneducated, who are just totally service to self, it would not bode down very well for us. They could create a false flag invasion of aliens. They would create false aliens coming down, attacking people and saying they were aliens, when in fact they're humans under some form of disguise or programmed life forms created by humans. You cannot imagine what the capabilities are of some of these human agencies, what they could do to spoil the disclosure process. It really has to be a step-by-step process from the bottom up, and even to include enough people in the political sphere. And believe me, since the congressional congressional hearing set up by Steve Bassett, it was a fake congressional hearing, and the Disclosure Project, people are looking at these things and they're learning. And even the senators and the congressmen, they're starting to know. They also go to the cinema and watch Steven Spielberg and Philip Dick films, and they know that something's not right. Roswell, the story still resonates, it comes back, it doesn't die. The astronauts talk about things. It's well on the way. Just give it some more time.
Jonas Flores
within our lifetime.
Sorry?
Hopefully within our lifetime.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. As we transpose from 4G to 5G, is this a way of annihilating humans?
No, I think this is conspiracy theory. I mean, 5G is going to come whether you like it or not. We have to evolve to these new technologies, whether it's 5G, 6G, 7G. Don't worry. People will know if they're safe or not. Microwaves are also dangerous, but they put into a box with a certain safety screen, although I won't use a microwave. People using the 4G on the ears all the time is not very good for you. 5G is just another one of these electromagnetic interferences that will be there to an agreed standard and agreed extent. We have to move forward into technology because it's also one of the tools that we will use to educate ourselves and to give each other the ability to communicate with each other, to share all the information that we're talking about now.
Okay. Now, Ed, before we close, do you have any last question or concluding questions?
No. I think we've covered. There are a lot of questions, but I think we've covered enough grounds.
We will cover that. We will cover that on our next guesting, if Neil would oblige. We'll still have to discuss Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind, another interesting topic that only Neil would know how to explain. Now, Neil, how can our audience get in touch with you? Do you have a website, or are you preparing a book? Are you writing a book?
I've written a book already. It's called Close Encounters of the ADHD Kind.
Yeah.
I've written that book, and my page really, apart from my own name, which has got too many friends at the moment, you can go to Exopolitics Hong Kong, and when you open up Exopolitics Hong Kong, you will see Open Your Eyes. We have a big card there saying Open Your Eyes, and we plan to do a series of films for Opening Your Eyes that we'll release onto YouTube.
Is that how it is written? Is it how it spells Exopolitics Hong Kong?
Yeah, Exopolitics, one word. Exopolitics, one word. Yes, that's spelled right. Exopolitics Hong Kong.
Mhm.
on
And
Facebook. You,
and
If you,
for your Facebook page. And
Neil,
do you have any plans of conducting webinars in the future, especially if you've discussed extra consciousness or
well,
exopolitics?
that's something we could do on your show at some point. It's not a problem. I don't
Mhm.
really set up webinars. I just try to be. I try not to be one of these kind of researchers that are going to be in every single show and to try to claim the fame, so to speak. I just do quite low profile and just here and there. And that's the rest of it. The rest of the stuff is I'm doing myself and learning with people here in Hong Kong that we work together.
Yes, very well. We look forward
a
to.
lot of the Filipinos in our field know you.
Oh yes, good.
I think they do.
And let's
Because
work
of
toward
the conference we had. We had
Right.
300 there. And we have
and
4,000 now that we have 4,000, which we will post this video in the UFOSP, and we have around 4,000 members
Good,
there.
good, good, good.
and we look forward, of holding a joint conference, Hong Kong and Manila UFO gathering to be done or to be held in Hong Kong. Well, Neil, we won't keep much of your time. We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate your coming over and joining us tonight. And we learned a lot. And we were stunned by your revelation, and I could not figure how to question, how to frame my question, because many of those things that I heard from you were first time in my ears. But that should
Good.
be a signal for me to research more on these items. Ed, uh,
Well,
save
thank you very
insight.
much, Neil. One last question, Neil. Do you
Yes,
still have that page in your website where you have all these free ebooks?
yes.
You still have that? I haven't visited your site for a time, so
Yeah, I haven't updated the sites. I don't really bother with it, but it's
yeah,
exopoliticshongkong.com, and you
yes.
can find the
You don't
free
mind
free
if
downloads.
you don't mind if I give that page to our members, so if they are interested in the books,
No,
they can download.
perfect, perfect, perfect.
Okay, all right. Thank you, and thank
Okay,
you very much for your time, Neil.
you're welcome.
We look
Our
Bye
forward
bye,
to
pleasure.
everybody.
for the
Bye bye.
CE5 topic, ha? Okay, thank you
Yeah,
very much.
okay.
Bye-bye, bye-bye. Yan po mga kaibigan. Oh, ano na ako natulala, hindi ako makapagsalita.
Uh, Sabi ko nga
Oh,
sa iyo, ma-mesmerize.
na-mesmerize ako. Oo. Nung conference natin, siya sa pinakamagaling na presenter during the time. Simple
That's
lang
true.
siya. Tama nga. Sabi niya na ayaw niya magpa-high profile. At simple lang talaga siya. So, well, siguro sa susunod, may mga foreign guest na rin tayo, Ed.
Oh, si
Tulungan mo.
Karen Hudis. Marami interesado sa Wealth of Nations series mo ah.
Oo nga, oo nga.
Kailangan pasok mo na si Karen Hudis.
And then, sumagot naman si Karen Hudes.
Sumagot
Sabi,
na.
sumagot. Sabi niya, okay lang naman yung show. Wala namang problema.
Live tayo ah.
Ha? Oo, wala namang
Live
problema.
na tayo.
Oo, walang problema na sa akin yung email. Sabi niya, walang problema
Oh,
sa inyo. Kaya lang ang problema, nare-restrain daw siya dahil din sa kabal. Kumbaga parang hindi muna siya magsasalita siguro. Hindi pa
ganon.
panahon. Oo. Maraming nakaano ngayon dahil maraming interesado doon, maraming naglilitawan at tumatawag nga sa atin, gusto magsalita. So, might as well, di ba? Hindi
Oo,
na natin
correct.
hintayin na isang linggo. Basta, pag nandyan na
Pag nandyan,
sila,
nandyan.
alang kagad para
Oh.
mapabilis yung proseso. Ha?
Okay, Tony.
Okay.
Good night. Thank you very much. A very interesting
Marim.
bagong
Muli,
direction na natin to. We are going international.
going international, so I'll need to refine my English.
Oo. Si Gerard, kontakin mo.
I could not contact Gerard anymore. I think he's gone out of he went out he left Facebook already.
Ganun ba?
Oo. He was hurt because I posted a Hitler article eh. Parang gano'n na na siya. Kasi pinatutunog ko daw na mukhang mali at mukhang tama yata sa Hitler in some sense. Dahil nga dun sa mga Illuminati pero hindi niya nagustuhan yata yung posting ko. Anyway,
Okay,
ah,
good night.
okay. Good night. Maraming salamat Ed sa iyong pag
Namimilipit ngayon.
Wala natin.
Dila ko
Okay.
sa English.
Ah, okay. Sige, maraming
Sanay na
salamat.
tayo Tagalog at yung Bisaya.
Kaya nga eh. Kaya nga. Pero
Alright.
matututo sanayin natin yung English natin dahil otherwise maubusan tayo ng guest, ha?
Okay,
Okay.
good night. I will now stop the camera.
Okay. Okay, so yan po ang naging kabuuan ng ating programa sa gabing ito. Ating po naging panawin mula iba kundi ang kapitapitagang Neil Gould ng exopoliticshongkong.com at pinaliwanag nga po niya na itong exopolitics ay ang pag-aaral na mas a notch higher o yung mas nag-level up doon sa normal o sa average na ufology. Kasi dito ay pinag-aaralan din yung politics na pinaiiral o malamang na pinaiiral ng mga aliens dito sa ating daigdig. At dyan din yung mga galaw ng mga gobyerno kung bakit sinusuppress ang alien information o information about aliens, information about extraterrestrials dahil gusto nilang mapanatili itong mga elites ang kanilang control sa atin. Gusto nila na tayo ay manatiling mga alipin nila. So, yan po ang aming naihatid sa inyo ngayon sa episode na ito, episode number 4, year 2 ng Alien Talk. Ako po si Anton Israel. Binabati ko si Adrian Reyes. Maraming salamat. Si Dennis De Parini, si Jonas Flores, Chito Arcilia, Willie Aragon Raelian, si Rose si Rose. Rose Calleja, si Francis Sayer. Ayun, nasagot naman ni Neil Gould yung tungkol sa project Blue Book, Franz Reyes. Si Joji Tangunan. Si Aldrin James Sanchez Di Mapilis, si Alfredo Faustino, at si Marvs Osnerol. Ayan. Okay, so hanggang sa muli. Bukas po, baka tayo po ay magla-live muli dahil meron pong magpapahayag ng kanyang posisyon dito po sa ating ginagawang serye na Wealth of the Nation. So, abangan niyo po yung bukas ng 2:00 ng hapon. So pakikinggan po natin kung ano pa kanyang disposisyon tungkol dito sa ating seryeng Wealth of the Nation. Ito po si Anton Israel. Nag-iwan po sa lahat ng isang magandang gabi.